Hello, my friends, and welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn tips, tricks, and strategies to help you run and grow your IT service business. Whether you're a one person shop or a bigger place leading a team for the journey, this is the place for you. I want to introduce my co host, Mr. Corey Kirkendoll from 5K Technical Services. How are you today, Corey?
I'm good, Rick, man. How about yourself, man? Ready for this weekend to kick in?
And I'm doing okay. The weather then really flipped, and now I guess New Jersey got the message that it's fall going into winter, and the temperature has really dropped. But it's all good.
Yeah, we get that down here too, man. We woke up to 51 degrees, right? But it's Texas, man. It'll be 105 by the end of the week. So by the end of next week. So we take what we get.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Quick note: our other co-host, Paco Lebron, he is away this week. He's on site doing a little bit of work for the company, and we'll have some announcements on that coming soon. Before Corey and I get started to the topic today, I just want to do a little quick housekeeping. I've gotten a couple of messages from some people asking us what's going on with us. I know we haven't recorded as much as we normally have. We are working very hard to get back on schedule. As you know, we the three of us all run our own MSPs. So on top of that, and family obligations, and this sometimes it gets a little hectic. But the three of us have talked, and we are committed to doing this. And this is why, again, with Corey coming in, it helps us a lot because now at any point like today, you'll get two of us and not necessarily all three of us, but we are working hard to get to get on a more consistent basis and go back to where we were. So I do appreciate those who hung with us and have been patient, and but we are working on it. Second note I wanted to get out. TechCon Unplugged 2024. We did promise that we were going to get the sessions out to you all. We are still working on it. It's just become more of a challenge than I originally anticipated. Now this is, and I'll take my own responsibility. This is my side of the business, so it's just a couple of glitches here and there, but we should have that all ironed out soon. You all will be able to go in. We'll send invites, and you'll be able to go in and check out any of the sessions you may have missed or you may have wanted to see again. So I do make that promise that will be coming soon. And the last thing, speaking of TechCon Unplugged, we will have an announcement of what's going on. I know by now, normally we're already, heavily into telling you when and where and what's going on for next year's show. But we will have that announcement coming shortly as to what TechCon, what's going on with TechCon and where we will be. So again, I appreciate you all hanging with us. We're getting it together, and we'll have it all, ironed out pretty soon. But with that being said, Corey, we'll move on to topic now. And before we get in, you gotta we try to start sometimes with some learning lessons. So I'm gonna ask you for a quick tip, trick, or story that went on with you this week or the past couple of weeks that you think the audience would benefit from.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that, man. I'm looking forward to TechCon, man. And it's gonna be a good time, man. I think it's gonna be a great show, just like last year was. So we're looking forward and heavily planning for that. I think a tip this week, man, is the end of the year, holidays are coming up, man, is and where it comes from is time to be thankful, man. Make sure that you're thinking out your employees, your family members, your customers, and really making sure that you're spending that time to give them a gift or give them something that shows that appreciation, right? And I think the client base and the appreciation, the gift should match, right? So you really want to make sure that if they're spending, 100 grand a year for you, man, please don't send them a $25 Amazon gift certificate, right? Give them something that really matches what it looks like to show that value and show where it comes from, man. And the same thing for your employee, right? Is that's what makes us successful. Is let's just really make sure that we're focusing and keeping an eye on the prize and making sure they appreciate it for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think if you're dealing with, I'm always going to say this because we always try to approach it from two levels, right? So if you're dealing with a budgetary issue, there are some things out there I'm sure you can do. But like Corey said, if you reward your clients accordingly, right? So if you have those big clients, give them something decent, spend something, spend a little dollars on them to show your appreciation. But I will say this, for every client whether you they are your favorites or they are far from it. Do send them something, whether that's
Yeah.
just a card or a small gift you can do. Again, it's not up to me to determine your budget, but just showing that little bit of appreciation, you never know, can go a long way. Because again, your clients deal with a lot of different vendors that come in and out. Some of them do this, and some of them don't. So I would imagine that the majority of them do not. So stand out if you can. And like I say, even if that's just a card acknowledging, that you appreciate their service, just, get that done for them. I wanted to share one other quick thing with everyone. And this is something I'm going to just reveal a little bit of my strategy towards sales. And this is one of those, I'm not trying to gloat or make a client feel bad, but I had a client this week who um, has a personal laptop at home. Um, they had some issues with the laptop. Now, always I always stress the same thing, whether you're a home user, business user, whatever, right? There's certain things you need to take care of, right? And backup, whether that's through a OneDrive or through through even an external disk drive, something to back up your system, and the other is to protect it with some sort of antivirus or anti malware, just so you're not just out there exposed. So I say that for this. I set up a client that asked me, I got a new laptop. Can you make sure everything's okay? So this is 4 years ago. I did this for them. Set it up, made the recommendation. Hey, you should back this up. If you can use your OneDrive or something just to back it up, just to make sure you have your files on point, and also get something to protect it. Right now, since we don't, we will not include them a personal machine in their management service plan. I just gave the recommendations on certain things you can get. Find out the other day, I get a frantic call that somehow they the top of the machine ripped off. They took it to a repair shop to get it fixed. The top of the laptop, they took it to a repair shop to get it fixed, get it back, and it's asking for the BitLocker key, the BitLocker recovery key. I don't know how it went from a messed up top of the screen to something with the hard drive, and it needs a BitLocker recovery key, but they don't know what a recovery key is. They don't know. So we search all of their, Microsoft accounts. I'm asking, hey, maybe a kids use it, maybe somebody use it, and they told the machine to encrypt it, but we can't do anything without this BitLocker key. So, and I'm gonna make a short story long. Sorry about that. But the thing goes on. I'm talking to the husband, and I say, hey, did you guys, did you make a backup? And his answer to me was, no, we didn't. Who knew something like this would happen? And immediately in my head, it goes off. I knew something like this would happen, right? We as MSPs, we know something like this would happen. And this is one of the things I'm just gonna say, when you go out and you talk to clients, because this applies not only to a home user, it applies to business users. When you try to sell your services, a client will say, oh, well, we're too small to get hacked, or that won't happen here, right? The thing is, and they say, and I had this happen last week on a sales call with a potential client who said, well, we have no data for a client to hack, or we have no data that's important enough or worth enough for somebody to go through and hack. And my answer to them was that you may think the data is not worth it to them, but the question is, what is it worth to you? Right? What happens if for some reason they go and it may not be worth nothing to them, but if your business now is stuck because you don't have a backup, you didn't protect yourself, and now you can't do business, right? Your employees can't work, you still got to pay them, you can't service your clients, your customers, and you're just basically idle. So now what is that worth to you? Forget what it could be worth to anyone else. The value has to be, what is it worth to you? And that's just something I wanted to bring that out, because it always seems to go that way. Like when someone thinks something can't happen or don't anticipate it happening, um, it happens, right? And then you're like, wow, that extra $100 or whatever could have served me well now. because I'm not in, you know, we all can look back in the rearview mirror on anything in life that we made those kind of decisions. But I wanted to bring out that for the simple reason that as you're talking to clients, and I know we hear it all the time, oh, I have nothing for no one to take, or it's not worth it. The question needs to be turned around to them. What is it worth to you if you don't have this?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that out. I know it was a little bit of a long story, but I just think it was relevant, and it kind of happened, kind of really showed itself the last 2 weeks in two consecutive calls that way. So I just wanted to bring that out. Now on to today's topic, and today's topic is use that budget. And what we're talking about here really is, it's the end of the year. You know, we're trying to wrap up, and we talk about fourth quarter living, what we're doing in our businesses to not only prepare for the following year, but what are we doing to wrap up this year strong? Now, one of the things that comes up is these projects and opportunities that that could be there for clients to have money in their budgets or have money that they could use to do some year-end projects. So Corey, this was your topic and your idea, so I'm going to let you start it off and let you go with it.
No, for sure, man. I appreciate that. One of the things I think as an MSP that we forget about is that we look as if we're on the outside looking in. And that's typically why there's challenges when we do what it looks like. If you were an internal IT person, the head of director of IT, and in that organization, you will be responsible for setting that budget as you go forward. So you need to make sure that we're doing that, whether we're outsourced or whether we're internal, to do that as well. And what's cool about that is that we already know that where we sit as an IT from a business perspective, we are a cost center. We cost money because what we do is not tangible. They can't see like a car and say, oh man, I see that car, it's sitting in a parking lot, I can drive it and do it. They know we're doing something. They know that we're protecting them, but they really can't see that value yet. That's why when it's working well, they think they don't need us. But when it's not working well, they think that, man, we should have got rid of you, right? Or whatever that
Mhm.
should have been. And so, but when it's working well, they don't see the fact that we're doing our job. And the reason why things are working well and they're stable is because of all the proactive things that we're doing. And we have to be in that situation. And I say that to set this up is you have to make sure that you set up a clean budget for what you protect and see what you expect your customers to be doing and say, here's what I suspect we should be looking at in 2025. Right now, we know Windows 10 end of life. We know that Windows 11 machines are going to be coming up. We know I got some servers that need to be coming up. I know I need to be pushing them from a standard or a basic license to a premium license to gather more of the subscriptions that's going to be coming up. I know we're going to see some MFA kick in, and I need to make sure that we're going to SSO or bringing in some tool to go down that path, some projects coming up. We know that they're looking at growing their business and saying, hey, I'm going to go from one site to two sites. You, as the MSP, should be that one in the front side of saying, I see these projects coming. I need to figure out how to scale those out, but I also need to put some price projections and things to set that budget in front of them. And I live by a model that if you don't put it in the budget, it's zero. Then at that point, you're always begging. So the answer is
Absolutely.
no, right? If you didn't put it in the budget, you have no cash and it's zero, then you are begging to upgrade a laptop. You're begging to swap out a switch. You're begging to swap out a server. And so typically it's a very different conversation because it wasn't planned. It was not planned, it's not there.
Right.
So you have to put it in there and put it in front of them so they have some idea of that spend that needs to happen in that situation as you start to go forward. That's your price increases. That's everything that you have going on. Put that in front of them. Then it also helps you plan what you're going to be doing from a staff, a project, and things across all of your customers. Because if you see I got, $200,000 worth of projects coming in over the next 3 quarters, it helps you project and project as well of what you're going to need to do, what your spend, and what that ultimately looks like as well. And so as we get on that path, if you have a situation kind of like I always call it, like people who wait for income taxes to come in, I ain't doing nothing until I get my taxes next year. Well, we don't want them to be spending that money in December because we can't handle the pressure that's going to come along with that. Man, all the
Right.
stuff we've been begging for, they just happen to find some money. We can spread that out over the year. That's what you want to do. But those who haven't budgeted, this is a great time to go back to those customers because they do have some cash that they haven't spent yet, and say this is a great time to start talking about that. Spend the money in 2024 is a business situation, and but plan to deliver the project in 2025,
Right.
right? So you can help them move forward. And they already understand that because they're already doing tax planning. They're already doing those things to figure out how to do. They don't want to be paying no more taxes than anything they want to do for 2024. They want to spend that money, but spend the money in 24, but help them project and figure out how to get that project delivered for you in 2025. So you kind of stuff in the envelope, right? You want to make sure that I'm prepared and got work to going on, but they want to go down and do it. So this is a great opportunity to go back to that customer across the board and ensure you're having these conversations to say, hey, how can we spend you spend what you need to spend in 24 to help you be ready for 25? And then in 25, we want to be thinking about for the rest of the year and what's coming in 26. All right. Great time to be doing that. And this is being proactive, helping them figure out where they want to go as they want to go forward.
Makes perfect sense. And it goes back to too, as we're having these conversations, some things we talk about we should be doing as MSPs that we may do a little bit of and not enough. It's those bit quarterly or TBRs, those technology business reviews. So I don't want to hold anyone to doing in any specific cadence of how often you do them, but having those conversations then. And then, and like Corey said, if you're not planning, then you're begging, right? So if you haven't set it out, then you're begging. So my advice too is if you have not, like, if you run into those situations where you have not planned it out for 2024, so you've not asked those questions and you find yourself having to quote unquote beg, make sure next year or the end of this year, however you do it, whenever you have this conversation, you
Yeah.
are planning for it going forward so that you don't find us sitting here having this conversation and, a year from now, and you still have not, you find yourself in the same boat, and I know that, I'll say this as a smaller MSP, there are so many things that, that come up and you're always, you spend a lot of your time dealing with the day to day more so than you do with dealing with tomorrow and next month and next week and next year. But once you get to a point or you get organized enough, and it doesn't really matter what size you are, it is what level of maturity you are with how you approach the business, so you can do that as a small one person shop or as a 50-man operation doing 100 grand or $1 million. The planning portion of this still matters, right? We sit there and we tell our clients, hey, we want to manage your technology, your quote unquote VCIO, if you want to use that terminology, right? So it doesn't matter your size, and then necessarily, as Corey said, the client size doesn't necessarily matter.
Mm-hmm.
Plant the seed, put the budget, let them know what's coming. So it's not a surprise. And you're not saying, hey, you got to find the money to do this, or you got to find the money to
Yeah.
do that. Because I tell you the other side of that, I'm sorry. I tell you the other side of that is when something comes up like that and the client doesn't think you prepared them for that properly, they
Yep.
resent that. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
that bothers them.
Now you're hitting around the head because if you haven't had these conversations about their technology swap out, their refreshes, and they haven't had a conversation about Windows 10 and Windows 11, we already know that anything that I think is generation 8 and below is scheduled not to be
Right.
moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you, I'm marketing that to everybody, right? And saying what it is. You don't want me or Rick to be the first one telling your customers that half their devices is going to be non-supported or not be able to
Mm-hmm.
move forward, right? And that's a great opportunity to me because it puts us on the offense, but it puts you on the defense, which means that you're going to have to go and answer those questions to that customer that inhibits you from selling and having the other conversations. You're just trying to protect your own base at that point. Now I'm coming in there saying, hey, here's what it is, here's the plan, here's where it comes from. I'm already a step up just because we haven't had those conversations. But this is a great time for you to go in there and say, hey, I want to be ahead. Now they may not say yes, they may not say no, but they will guarantee you they will appreciate that you are bringing it to their attention that these are some things that they need to prepare for so they don't get surprised for it, right? Because at the end of the day, you know how it is in our business, right? They love us when you love us and they hate us when they hate us,
Exactly.
right? And it don't take but a little bit. So try to keep it on that situation where you keep pushing that love because
Mhm.
that's where you want to be, right? That's where you want to be.
And one of the things too, I'll say this, right? Have that conversation more than once, or bring it up more than once.
Yep.
Because if you tell them now, or you tell them in the beginning of the year, and October rolls around, and now Windows 10 is, they find out from somewhere else, they're gonna swear you didn't tell them, right?
Yep.
They're gonna say, I don't remember that. Or you say, hey, we had this conversation in December last year. We had this conversation in January. They're like, really? So, I guess twofold, two things you want to do with this, right? One, have the conversation early and often so you can plan for it and plant the seed with them, plan for it or budget for it. And two, try to do it sooner rather than later, because
Yeah.
you and I both know that what will happen is come October, you will have 60 machines to replace, right? And then you're running around nutty because now everyone is, finally pushing to get it done, because the light bulb goes off and they realize, hey, we got to get this done, or we're vulnerable, or
Yeah.
things can happen. So, again, so the goal is to try to get it done earlier rather than later.
Yeah.
And realistically, you should be in a position where, and this is something we adopted this year, so I'm nowhere near where I want to be with this, but we shouldn't be working on machines more than 3 years old anyway. Clients should
Yep.
not have those. We should be having that conversation. So if you have a machine, technically, if we were doing this right, we should have no machines coming up now that are not 8500, or not Intel 8500 or below, right? We should have no machines in that fall into that category, because that's, I think, what, 5-6 years ago, maybe
Mm-hmm.
even longer than that, is when those generation 8s came out. So, again, this is where it goes to having proper plan and procedures and requirements. Now, this is something, again, we took this whole year to inventory all this and lay these things out. And it's just one of those things I suggest, because, we shouldn't find ourselves behind the 8 ball with this,
Yeah.
rushing clients to get it done.
No doubt, man. This is valuable, and this is just one of those instances. There's probably other things in there, right? I mean, we see access points, end of life, end of support, right? That are probably still in there. Windows, Wi-Fi, routers, you name it. All of it has a shelf life. You want to make sure you're getting that out, staying productive and proactive about it, because at the end of the day, they're looking as you, as we throw that word around very big, as their trusted advisor,
Mhm.
right? And we got to make sure that, again, they may not like, and they will not like the fact that I got to go spend the money, but they will appreciate the fact that we brought it to their attention and say we need to address it. And
Right.
that's our job, is to say, look, you got to get rid of this router. It's been in there for 8 years. I understand it was donated, it was free. You don't want to get a license for it, but the risk is not worth the reward from that perspective.
Exactly.
And you got to work through that process to get them to that point. Because at the end of the day, when it hits or something happens or some vulnerability happens and they can't get it, we've seen it, right? Palo Alto just hit a big bug. Yeah. We saw Veeam hit a bug. If they don't have it and they can't upgrade it, then there's nothing you can do to protect them. So as
Right.
an MSP, you can't say that you're providing security and providing them that coverage if they got a router, a switch, a firewall, a PC that's end of life and in support. It doesn't work.
Exactly.
And
And what
that's
does
on
that
us.
cost? That costs the client more money, right? That's
Yeah.
downtime. If
Yep.
it, particularly if it's something in the network room, that means nobody can work, right?
Yeah.
So there's downtime. There's, there's, now he's losing money. You're going crazy trying to fix it or figure out a way to fix it. And it's just not, again, in the end, just it goes back to this. Just because a router or a switch can last 8 years doesn't mean it needs to be in there for 8 years, right?
100%.
And
100%.
because it's exactly what you said, Corey. It's that one time where it's been holding up. It's great, like saying you'll drive your car till the wheels fall off, right? And then when the wheels fall off, you're screwed. You know what I'm
That's right, man.
saying? So
Hey,
it's the exact same thing. And
yeah.
it's a great point. And it's just a way to look at it. And I emphasize this now, is that there just needs to be, you have to have some kind of guidelines and standards that you are willing to work with, that, and you have to find those clients who are willing to work under those, to work under those guidelines and standards, because, and it's all the way, I think, the way you quote unquote sell it in and present it to them, that they understand this is not necessarily about making a buck. Honestly, how much do we make on hardware, right? I mean, you don't make any money on hardware. So it's not about making a buck, but it is about saving $2. You know what I mean? And saving 10 minutes, because again, clients think about the money, and I always say this: I can put a value on, how much something costs, but I can't put a value on time. I can't put a value on how much time, how much money is lost when how much time it cost us, or I can't say it the right way, but it costs you money when you have downtime, right? So that's the best way to say it. And you can't put a price tag on that, because you never know what could be going on at that moment. You're in a, if you're in a retail business and you got, 10 clients waiting to buy something, and your router goes out or your switch goes out, or something, because you didn't want to spend $80 or $200, whatever it might cost to fix it.
Right.
And again, that really goes back on us, though. And I'll say that again, I'm learning more and more. If a client doesn't want to invest in this technology, they're not a client for me, right? Because in the end, it ends up costing me more as well, right? And the headache, and now you got to pull this person off of this job, and you got to go rush. Now, why is your lack of planning constitute an emergency on my part now, right? Now, we've told you what needs to be done. We've told you numerous times this is not going to hold up. And then when it goes, all of a sudden we're supposed to drop everything we're doing to solve your issue. And that can't work.
Say, look at that, Rick, man. You went from talking to preaching, brother. I'm saying, man, you kicking that knowledge. I was doing whoop whoop up in there.
But you know what? It's just the experience now, man. It's the frustration, and it's my own looking in the mirror at the way we do things too, right? Having to really take in, and this is what I said, we did this autopsy this year, all year, focusing on how we do business, and and a lot of things, and for lack of a better, it pissed me off that to be who I am, feel smart, know what I'm doing, that we let some things slide. So yes, I may be a little preachy on it now, because I am absolutely committed to doing it the way it needs to be done.
And you hit it right up, man. So what's cool about this is an opportunity, right? We still talk about, I call these little Trojan horses and little moments of epiphanies that happen, right? So when you start talking about, well, I don't want to swap out a router, I don't want to do this, and we're talking about cybersecurity, and we talk about other things, this is a great opportunity to say, you know what, Mr. Customer, I get that, but what we want to do is just to show you what that posture looks like. Let's run a tabletop exercises. I'd like to come in and just do it with you, and let's show you what happens in the event of how we will recover your business. It takes one thing: go in there, shut the router off, period. Now let's have a conversation. How do we do business? Just that little bitty thing right there is, and let's talk about this. Phone's not working, emails not coming in, PCs can't get to the internet, nothing is happening. Your business is at a halt right now. One thing is going to show them in is like, wow, this is important to me. But also says, what do I need to do to prepare myself in the event that will happen? Because that's what we know will happen, right?
Exactly.
Now it's a very different conversation, because it's not about what we're saying. We're showing you, here's what that looks like. And then the piece of that is the way you do it from an education perspective is, now that we did that, now let's put together a plan in the event that this happens. How do we keep your business to continue to move forward? Now we have shifted that conversation from, oh my God, you're trying to sell me something, that no, you're really trying to show me how to pull up my business continuity and what my disaster recovery looks like. Now, guess what happened? You just opened up the whole door of that cyber conversation, and that conversation of backup and resilience and multiple internet lines, routers swap out, all that stuff that you just opened, by showing them the true value of what that was. And that's what it looks like, by just doing a simple tabletop exercise of saying, we're here to prepare you. We want you to be prepared in the event that this happens, right? Be like Allen Iverson, practice. What you talking about? It ain't even a game.
Exactly. And that's just the it's it's the nature of it, man, and we gotta be prepared. And it's the thing is, you know, you take that same scenario. I asked the client that, what happens if your if your router goes down or your disk, you know what he says? I'll call you and you'll come fix it, right? That's the answer. And he said, that's what I pay
Exactly.
you for. My answer to you is that's not what you pay me for. You pay
Yeah.
me to make sure that things like that don't happen, right? Or if they do happen, you know what to do to help solve the problem, or you have some steps to help prevent this from happening, right? And I'd say to the
100%.
client again, if you are, you were the victim of a ransomware or something, and something goes on, there should be some steps that you guys take on your end before you call me, right? So that I'll say, hey, did you do steps A, B, and C? Because those should be done. And everyone's that's up their plan is theirs, but our client should have some kind of disaster plan, right? Some
Yep.
type of plan that we give them, or that they develop, or we develop with them, however you want to say it, right? But they should have some steps that they need to take that we're involved in, that they know. But the answer is not always call Rick. Right? It's not call
Yeah.
Renactus. And we have to get them to understand that, sometimes by the time if you don't take the proper steps, by the time you call me, we may be too late. We may be past the point of no
Exactly.
return. And excuse me. But that is I think it's very important that we have those conversations, like you said, Corey. Let them experience
Yeah.
what happens when stuff goes down. What happens when you can't work, and you got
Yeah.
a room full of patients, or a room full of clients, or whatever your business is that you're servicing. You can't get a project out on time because you got no internet now. What are those things? What does that cost you, and what is it worth to you to make sure, or do, again, we can never guarantee that things won't go wrong, but what is it worth to you that, to make sure we've taken every measure to make sure those things don't happen to you, right? Or to do our best to prevent those things from happening to you. Because 9 times out of 10, I've learned it comes down to, these problems happen because of neglect, like either
Yep.
the MSP, us, we've neglected doing something that could have prevented the problem, or it comes from the other side of that. It comes from just the pushback against doing something like that. The I'm sure a lot of us had the issue of when we first started, when MFA really became a big thing, getting clients to accept the fact that MFA is unnecessary. That extra 2 seconds or 5 seconds that you need to take is necessary, right?
Low hanging fruit, baby. Low hanging fruit.
Exactly. And so some of us would put it off, right? Oh, I don't want to have this conversation again, and they're not going to do it, so let's not do it. And then something happens, they don't have 2FA. That was our neglect, right?
Yeah.
Or client pushed back, we gave in, decided to still work with them. Because the other part of this, and I know we've gotten way off the budget topic, but the other part of this is when anything goes wrong with the technology, you're at fault, right? In the
Right.
client's eyes, it's your fault. No matter how much you told them what to do, what not to do, it's your fault.
All day.
And that's why, again, from a liability standpoint, from a headache standpoint, from just a business standpoint, it's you gotta sometimes say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna deal with you anymore. It's okay to walk away from what as it could be a potential headache for you.
Man, to bring us back, and what's cool about this and the conversation we're having right now is I find ourselves, and I talk to my team about this a lot, is that if you don't choose to tell and be open and honest with the customer about what the problem is, then they are assuming that you got a fix and it's going to be resolved. And when you talk about the budget situation, I've got a situation right now that's live. Is that I got a customer who bought a machine with a warranty on it. The problem is having the fan has had an issue. Now the keyboard is having an issue, and my tech keeps saying, "Hey, I'm gonna try if I can fix it. I'm gonna see if I can fix it." And I said, "No, this machine has a warranty. You need to go ahead and swap out that machine and get the manufacturer to go ahead and take the situation for twofold. One, the customer paid for the warranty, and that's where
Mhm.
it needs to get done. Two, because it's the second time that they've had a different issue on the same machine. the customer's trust in that machine is no longer there.
Right.
Right. I don't care if you do fix it. 3, your time and money should not be affected in that situation because it has a warranty. Let's move it on to the
Exactly.
piece, and that's where we want to go. And so those are the pieces where it's like, hey, you got to look at it and say, let's go down that path. But you also got to sit there and say, hey, you got to give them the truth, no matter how hard and how bad the news is. They don't have to like it, but they will respect it from that perspective of saying, hey, I need to go ahead and call Dell and swap out this machine, or Dell, HP, or call Lenovo and swap out the machine. But this is why we're doing it. And yes, there's going to be a little bit of downtime, but this is
Mhm.
what's happening from that perspective. Yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, I don't like it, but at least I have a solution. If we say, no, we're going to see if we can fix it, they assuming that they're going to be working with no downtime. You're going to do it magically, somehow shrink down to a magic
Mhm.
man and get inside the machine and fix it up. We don't know. You got to be straight up honest with them and put it out there, Frank. Because if not, you catch us on the backside and says, well, you said you were going to fix it. You said you were
Right.
going to do this. And it breaks again. Now we're 3 issues on the machine. Now it's in serial. Now it's going to take what could have took us a week to fix. We're a month into this situation where it could have been resolved a long time ago. Makes us,
Exactly.
our credibility is shot at that point. That's just not a
Exactly.
cool place to be.
That's exactly right. And and again, it's using the resources, like you said though. And a lot of
Mhm.
times because we think from a tech perspective and not a business perspective, we think
Yeah,
fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. And like you said, we're not thinking about the time, the energy, the
yeah,
fact that there is a warranty on this, right? And if this is continuously happening, something else is wrong, right?
yep,
Or something is wrong from a manufacturer standpoint, not from our standpoint. So let's go ahead. You pay for it, like you say, you pay for warranty. Let's use the warranty because again, uh, credibility gets shot when every time you say, "Hey, you send a ticket and say completed," and then a week later that ticket gets reopened or the same issue comes on a new ticket because the same problem happens, right? Then they say, "Hey, what
yeah,
are you doing?" So, I think that's absolutely something that to think about in a way of doing it. Like maybe you try it once or set a threshold. We'll fix it once. If that same issue comes up, you
yeah,
know, let's look at another way of doing this. And again, we always think let's fix it. And we always trying to solve the problem, and we always
yeah.
assume that the problem starts and ends with us. And not sometimes it just doesn't.
Right. No, that's key. That's powerful, man. And the other piece is that we started talking about our services and we started talking about things that we need to do and how we evolve. Having these budget conversations, we need to understand that what we're doing today to secure you and support you is not going to be the same as what we need to do tomorrow to do that.
Right.
Prices are changing. We see, new elections, tariffs going to start to come in. Prices are going to go up. It's just national business progression that prices will increase and where it's going to have that conversation and move forward. But if you're not having that budget conversation and not having frequent conversations with your customer, that's always going to be a very tough and difficult conversation, right? But what you're doing today to support that customer and what you're charging today, I 100% guarantee you is not the same as tomorrow, right?
Exactly.
Not going to be the same. So you got to have it, man. In order to survive in this climate and to survive moving forward and to progress, you got to make sure that you are priced accordingly moving forward, making sure your budget is where it needs to get done, and you're making sure your customer is moving forward with you down the path to continue to support that legacy and where it needs to go for that perspective. And show them those wins, right? And here's where it comes from. We able to do this because we already did that. You like a hero. You
Mhm.
already thought we were going to need a new server. Now we need a new server, and guess what? I'm not surprised. It's
Right.
in the budget. The answer is yes. When can we get it done?
Mhm.
Right? Hey, you need 7 more machines? No worries. We project and budget for 10. The answer is yes. When can we get it done?
Mhm.
Right?
As
That's the
opposed to
key.
we gotta get it done, please.
Yep, that's exactly right. So, and you look like that hero because now you have this magical crystal ball that you've been able to look forward
Mhm.
and think about that from that perspective and say, I saw this, I knew this was coming. It's kind of like your customer said, hey, yeah, I do. I see this coming. I already know where it's coming. So I'm preparing you for that process versus, letting it just smack you in the face and be like, yep, I told you, but you wasn't going to bid it anyway. So I didn't do it. Well, that's not how you want to do that. You want to just make sure you're there, because I think it's cool when you get that. Yeah, the answer is yes. Let's go get the server, versus justifying the server. Well, we already put that in there 3 quarters ago. The answer is yes. Let's go get it done. The
Right.
answer is yes. Let's go get it done. The answer is yes. Let's go get it done. Man, that is the best conversations and the easiest conversations, because your credibility is there, the money's there, you're moving forward, and it's showing that value and where it comes from. You're showing that tangible why they have you, and you're standing in front of that. They can go focus on their business, and you're leveraging your business to continue to make them comfortable. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all
Exactly.
about.
And there's two things that can come from it, right? Sometimes the client might get frustrated. You keep telling them, hey, we got to spend money, right? They may get frustrated that way. But just imagine what happens on the back end when they feel like you're surprising them with something, right? All of a
Yep.
sudden now you got 10 days and we got to replace these machines, or so they will appreciate the fact that you gave them the heads up, you gave them the foresight to say these are some things we got to look at, these are some things we got to change, we got a budget for, these are coming. um and again, reinforcing what's coming and continuously make saying it until you get that agreement or understanding. Because the other side of that, what they're not going to appreciate is if this is the last minute and you have not mentioned it. Oh, by the way, we got to change your 6 computers because they're in 7 days, Windows 10 no longer will be,
Yeah.
supported by Microsoft. So again, those conversations should be had. Again, if we call ourselves, as we talk about, we are not just there to fix things, right? We're there to plan, we're there to budget, we're IT support, consulting, all of these things we're doing as part of being a managed service provider. We have to have those conversations. And sometimes we don't like them because they're uncomfortable. Sometimes we don't like because the client don't want to spend the money and we don't want to hear the no. But this, again, the other side of that is what happens when something goes wrong, when you knew you should have replaced that server, or you should have replaced that switch or that router. And they Corey has said this a couple of times now, they hold on to that. They will remember that, you know, you were supposed to be the person that tell them ahead of time what happens, and it didn't. And now this is costing them money.
Yep.
This is costing them money. And what happens all the time, right? Right when something breaks is when the client is in the middle of something very important for them, right? It's just the way Murphy's Law works, right? We're in the middle of an important project and now the switch goes down, and now the router goes down, or now the computer doesn't work, or it's really slow, whatever the case may be. So again, I say we just need to as we've been talking about, budget for it, talk about it, present it to them, let them know what's coming. And if they don't buy in on the first conversation, have the conversation again.
Yeah.
They have to know, and they have to be. And it's not even a matter of covering your ass. It's just really a matter of being efficient in what you do, right? Being a professional.
Yep.
And part of being a professional for us is delivering the good news, delivering the bad, delivering the what's and it's not necessarily bad saying you got to spend money. It's the cost of doing business. You got clients who do anything else, and you're not the only vendor they have to deal with, right?
Yep.
They have to update other equipment if you're, or whatever, new supplies, whatever it is, they got to deal with it, and they got a budget for that.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be the guy that's hitting them at the last minute with it.
So I'll take it one more step. That's then my last comment on this would be is, when you start thinking about budget, if you don't have those conversations and you say my normal rate is $150 an hour for whatever my project rate is, and you go into an emergency rate, because now that means that you had time to plan, span it out, do what you need to get done. Your emergency rate is 2 or 3 times that, because
Mm-hmm.
that means you have pulled your entire staff, you're probably involved with it, that you are going to lose money on that project, because you are going to do everything you can to get that customer up, and you're not going to charge them accordingly, and they can't afford really what that number is,
Exactly.
right? So that's why it behooves you that you're either going to pay me now or pay me later, or you're going to have to take some of that suffering as well. Because if you really charge them what that emergency looked like, they probably wouldn't be your customer anymore, or they wouldn't have
Exactly.
do it because it would be some astronomical number that it would.
Hmm.
Let's say it was 15 grand to do the server if we did it normally, then it would probably have been more like 35, 40 based on that emergency that we had to
Right.
go do. It just wouldn't work. So that's why you got to think about it. It's a two-way street, right? If you don't plan and budget accordingly, not only are you messing with your client's cash flow, but you're also going to be destroying your cash flow, and you're also going to be interrupting your business operation
Hmm.
that that is going to affect your other clients as well to go down that path. So it's a two-way street. It's why it's a big deal for you to be thinking about this and say, let me plan accordingly, because that disruption is going to have a bigger impact. It's like throwing that little pebble in the middle of that pond, man. It's going to ripple back. And it may be very difficult for you to recover because that's a huge expense to you that's affecting your budget, your bottom line. And then think about it. We're talking about one. What happens if two, if not three, at the same time happening at the same time? Can you, as an MSP, afford to do that? That's why I really make sure that you're planning accordingly, because it's not only good for your customer, it's also good for you as well.
Absolutely. I think we will wrap up on there. Um, I do want to mention one final thought, a little off the topic. It is November 15th when we're recording this, so it should be out the following week. We mentioned this on the last episode that we all got together. Changing your prices or raising your prices, right? I just want to reiterate that again. If you haven't done so, get those. If you're sending letters out, just get them out now so that at least give a client 30, 45 days notice to let them know things will be changing or the price will be changing. Some of us I know do it and we don't necessarily send a letter. We just do it and it's in our MSA, and that's totally fine. But if you haven't been doing it, or you want to be that person that sends out the letter, just get that letter out and let everyone know, let it again. Just like this whole budgeting conversation. Let's not let that be a surprise to everyone that, hey, what's this extra $200 or whatever the rate may be now. So I do want to just say, if you haven't done so, do so, because you need to raise your prices, because I'm sure we've all had one or two vendors that have sent us some notifications that some things are changing, and employee costs, everything has gone up too. So, and your clients shouldn't be surprised, because I'm sure they have some prices going up from other vendors as well. Corey, any last final thoughts before we wrap up?
Nah, man, this is good. This is the time to close out 24 the right way, do some changes and do some things. But also, man, one of the things is you understand is that this is about a community and where it comes from, and really want to make you grow. So please do not hesitate to ask Rick, myself, or Paco any questions. If we don't know, we know somebody that does know, and we're here to support, man. Because I live by a mantra: when one MSP coughs, we all catch the cold. We want to make sure we
Absolutely.
keep each other straight and secure and protected 100%.
Yeah, I think those are great words to close with. So with that, I'll just say, hey, join us each week as we present new episodes. You can catch us on YouTube at youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. If you don't have time for that, you can catch us on the go. We are on your favorite podcatcher apps. It's Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Music, just to name a few. We will be back next week for Rick, for myself, Corey, and Paco. I want to say thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.